So what is the largest leaf in the world? The plant with the largest leaves in the world is the Raffia regalis. The leaves can reach a record-breaking 82 feet in length by 10 feet in width, which are longer than any other species of plant. However, this is not a solid leaf as they are divided and are made up of around 180 separate leaflets. So a lot of botanists continue to search for other plant species with leaves that are truly entire or not divided. There are two additional palm species contending for the world's longest undivided leaf. The first is the big leaf palm, a leaf up to 5 meters long that is divided just once at the very tip. The second is the joey palm, a leaf that measures up to 4 meters long but is entirely undivided. Apart from the terrestrial plants, the largest leaves of the giant Amazonian water lily, the Victoria amazonica, are documented to have a diameter of up to 8 feet. So you might ask, what is the world's largest leaf? The record holder is the Raffia regalis, but other scientists have reservations towards it. This tells us that leaves vary in shapes and sizes. As we describe different leaf types, we can determine the environmental factors important to leaf structure and how natural selection has produced diverse classes of leaves. At the end of this video, you are expected to describe the morphological characteristics of leaves and the different ways by which plants modified their structure to adapt into their environment. So recall that leaves are thin, flat, photosynthetic organ that can exchange gases with the atmosphere, dissipate heat, and defend themselves from herbivores and pathogens. Leaves should be flat and thin for maximum absorption of light and carbon dioxide, and most of their tissues must be alive and differentiated in order to carry out photosynthesis. Almost all leaves are specialized for photosynthesis. However, you may be surprised to find out that some species have leaves with adaptations that enable them to perform additional functions, such as support, protection, storage, or reproduction. So in here, tendrils are, as you can find here, clings to a support. After it has lassoed a support, a tendril forms a coil that brings the plant closer to the support. Tendrils are typically modified leaves, but some tendrils are modified stems, as in grapevines. Spines, like this one, those of the cacti, such as this prickly pear, are actually leaves. Photosynthesis is carried out where? By the fleshy green stems. As for the storage leaves, the bulbs such as this cut onion have a short underground stem and modified leaves that store food. And lastly, reproductive leaves are example of which is the leaves of some succulents. They produce adventitious plantlets which fall off the leaf and take root in the soil, producing a different or entirely individual plant. Now, let's move to the different parts of a leaf. Okay, looking at the structure of a leaf externally. So leaves can be found in variety of shapes and sizes, but regardless, the basic leaf features in plants include the leaf blade, the petiole, and stipules. So what are they? So the flat, expanded blade of the leaf is ideally suited for the photosynthetic process. It includes the apex, the margin, the veins, the midrib, and the base. So the apex is the leaf tip, and the margin is the edge or the boundary area of the leaf. The veins are vascular tissue bundles that supports the leaf and transport nutrients, and midrib is the central main vein arising from the secondary veins. Further, we have the petiole. The petioles are thin stalks that attaches the leaf to a stem, and the stipules are leaf-like structures at the leaf base. So the petiole or leaf stalk connects the leaf blade to the stem and transport materials to and from the blade. Some leaves actually have no petiole. In those cases, the blade is attached directly to the stem and are said to be sessile leaf. On the other hand, further small paired appendages called stipules may be present at the base of the leaf. However, they are varied in form. Some plants, they are leaf-like, in some plants, they are thorn-like. Let us now go to the leaf arrangement on stems. The place where the petiole is arranged or attached to the stem is called the node. The areas of the stem between adjacent nodes are called internodes. Now, there are three basic or common patterns of leaf arrangement on stems. If only one leaf is present at a node, the arrangement is known as alternate. If two leaves occur at a node, then that would be opposite. And lastly, with three or more leaves in a node, the arrangement is called whorled. Leaves are also classified according to their composition. There is a great variety of leaf forms and shapes ranging from small, simple leaves whose blade is undivided to large compound leaves whose blades are divided into leaflets. So when the leaflets occur in a feather-like pattern, it is called pinnately compound, whereas it is called palmately compound when the leaflets have a common attachment. It may be difficult to determine whether you are looking at a leaf or a leaflet. So one reliable indicator is the position of the axillary bud. The upper angle that forms between the top surface of the leaf and that of the stem is called the axial. So this is the angle, hence the axial. And it is here that a bud is usually located. So axillary buds are found only at the base of the leaves, as seen here in the simple leaf. So if you see presence of an axillary bud, then definitely you are looking at a leaf and not a leaflet. What are examples of simple and compound leaves? In figure A, the banana plant has simple leaves because the leaf blade is continuous. In compound leaves, the leaf blade is separated into leaflets. Compound leaves may be palmate or pinnate as mentioned a while back. So in figure B, palmately compound leaves such as those of the horse chestnut, the leaflets branch from the petiole. In letter C, or figure C, pinnately compound leaves, the leaflets branch from the midrib on a scrub hickory. And lastly, in figure D, the honey locust has double compound leaves in which the leaflets branch from the veins. Further, let's go to leaf venation. Leaves are also classified depending on the formation of the veins. Within each leaf, the vascular tissue forms veins, and the arrangement of veins in a leaf is called venation pattern. Monocots and dicots differ in their patterns of venation. Monocot leaves usually have a parallel venation, such as this one of the corn, because the vascular bundles are arranged in parallel lines running the length of the blade. In contrast, dicots have net or reticulate venation in which the vascular tissue is highly branched, forming a network throughout the blade. In this example, a tulip is a monocot with a parallel venation. The net-like venation in that of a linden leaf in figure B distinguishes it as a dicot, while in figure C, which is a ginkgo biloba leaf, it has a dichotomous venation. So the arrangement of veins of this type is forked, with each vein dividing at intervals into smaller veins of approximately equal size. Now let's move on to the morphology of other leaf types. So the structure and function of a leaf can be modified over the course of evolution as plants adapt to a particular environment. When function of the leaf blade is no longer primarily for photosynthesis, then some other plant part is usually modified to take its place. Leaf modifications are used to enhance the plant's survival overall. It can result in enhancing the plant to be more attractive, to become more trapping, or to be able to digest animals or insects. First, we have succulent leaves. So, succulent leaves are thick and fleshy. Numerous adaptations permit plants to survive in desert habitats one of the most common being production of these succulent leaves. So inside the leaf, the mesophyll contains very few air spaces. A lack of airspace makes the mesophyll more transparent, thus allowing more light to penetrate farther into this leaf. So the shapes of examples figure in A and B are spherical, giving them an optimal surface to volume ratio for conserving water. In figure C, as you can see, this agave has survived a wildfire because its succulent leaves protected the stem from the heat of the fire. Since it contains a lot of water, it also allowed for the plant to not heat up immediately in the presence of a fire, hence preserving the inside of the plants. Next, we have the sclerophyllous foliage leaves. So sclerophyllous leaves are a type of vegetation that have hard leaves and short internodes that are adapted to long periods of dryness and heat. Their hardness makes them more resistant to animals, fungi, freezing temperatures, and ultraviolet light. With these plants, the sclerenchyma is often present as a layer just below their epidermis and in the bundle sheaths. If you recall, sclerenchyma cells are the type of ground tissue cell that consists of a very thick cell wall. So the cuticle of these types of plants is usually very thick, and waxes are abundant on leaves of many sclerophyllous species. That's why they are very hard to include in an animal's diet. The leaves of conifer. Conifer leaves are always simple and never compound and have only a few forms. In almost all species of conifers, leaves are sclerophylls, meaning they have a thick cuticle and their epidermis are made mostly of thick-walled cells, the sclerenchyma, similar to the one presented in the previous slide. So conifer leaves are either with long or short needles and occur in all pines, firs, and spruces, like that of A and B. While in other species, leaves are rather large and broad scales held away by from the stem. So conifer leaves are mostly perennial, thus remaining on the stem for many years, and consequently these plants are called evergreens. Another example of a leaf modification is a bud scale. So bud scales are small and rarely compound, so mechanical wind damage is not a risk for bud scales. Okay, actually, one of the most common modifications of leaves is their evolutionary conversion into these bud scales. Okay? Because their role is primarily protection, not photosynthesis, bud scale structure differs from that of foliage leaves. Their petiole is either short or absent because they must remain close to the stem and be folded over it. Bud scales must be tougher and waxier than regular leaves, so frequently they produce a thin layer of hard bark to provide greater protection than the simple epidermis of common foliage leaves. Another example is a spine. Spines are sharp projections derived from leaves that function in plant defense. Cactus spines are modified leaves of axillary buds. The succulent, moist cactus body would be an excellent source of water for animals were it not for these protective spines. These spines have no mesophyll nor vascular tissue present, so instead they have a closely packed fibers. After fibers mature, they deposit a substance called lignin, which causes these spines to harden and resist decay. Because cacti carry out photosynthesis in their stem cortex, the loss of the leaf blade was not selectively disadvantageous for them. Another example would be tendrils. And tendrils are or exist in plants with very much weak stems. The tendrils of many plants such as peas, cucumbers, and squash are another form of modified leaf. And unlike photosynthetic leaves, tendrils grow indefinitely and contain cells that are capable of sensing contact with the object. So for common leaves, they sense the direction of sunlight, thus their leaves are oriented to, or their leaf blades orient themselves to the sunlight for maximum photosynthesis. But for tendrils, these modified leaves respond by sensing solid objects and growing around them for support. Lastly, we have insect traps. Okay? The ability to trap and digest insects has evolved in several families of plants. Insectivory has evolved in plants that grow in habitats with poor amounts of nitrates and ammonia. So to obtain these nutrients, these types of plants digest insects. Now, trap leaves can be classified as either active traps that move during capture or passive traps that are incapable of movement. The best known passive trap are the leaves of pitcher plants in figure A. Leaves of sundew are active traps in letter B, and they too have many features in common with foliage leaves, but their upper surface is covered with glandular trichomes that secrete a sticky digestive liquid. So in here, their invaders become attached to this one and they can digest it further. And lastly, Venus flytraps have leaves that are held flat. When an insect walks across this trap, it brushes against the trigger hairs present in the leaves and will eventually stimulate the trap to close. So in summary, a leaf may have three parts: the blade, the petiole, and a pair of stipules. If the blade is undivided, the leaf is said to be simple. However, if the blade is divided into separate leaflets, the leaf is said to be compound. According to the pattern of leaflets, compound leaves may be pinnately or palmately compound. Leaf venation patterns are either parallel, which is commonly found for monocots, and netted for dicots. Leaves are the primary organs for photosynthesis, but may be modified for other purposes. And natural selection has resulted in the evolution of numerous types of leaves involved in photosynthesis, protection, support, water, and nutrient storage, as well as nitrogen absorption.